Robert Whittaker takes on Khamzat Chimaev at UFC 308 on Sunday, October the 26th. So card, of course, headlined by TOPURIA and Max Holloway. To watch the fight, make sure you tune into TNT Sports Box Office. And great news for UK fight fans as live coverage starts at 5 p.m. from Abu Dhabi. So no staying up until midnight to watch your favorite fighters. And I'm delighted to be joined by the man who makes up one half of the co-main event. Bobby Knuckles is the Reaper, former UFC middleweight champion, Robert Whittaker. How you doing, Robert?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm also in the Middle East at the moment. I'm in Saudi Arabia, so I can kind of understand in terms of the climate what you're dealing with at the moment. How are you acclimatizing to the desert heat in Abu Dhabi or Dubai?
Honestly, like it was hot a few months ago, right? So
Yeah.
it's gotten cooler, and Australia gets pretty hot itself, mate.
Yeah, to be fair, you're pretty used to it. You fight Khamzat Chimaev next Saturday. You're supposed to fight him in June. Again, this is a tapping question. I don't want to take the mic too much, but do you think Khamzat will actually turn up to this one?
I don't care.
I
Maybe.
don't care.
No, well, it is what it is. I can't control that, mate.
Mm, And in terms of Khamzat, people call him the boogeyman. You are, of course, the Reaper. You've wreaked havoc in the middleweight division for a long, long time. Is this one of your toughest tests in the division?
Nah, man. Like I've fought the best of the best. Like I
Mm,
think it's the most pressing test because it's unwritten. And I think there's a lot of gravity to this fight because it's the unknown, right? Like as of right now, but like I've won a lot of hard fights and I've lost a lot of hard fights. I've been tested, man.
yeah. To be fair, that is true. And I was going through your last 11 fights, if you don't mind me reading them right now, but it's truly murder's row. You faced Yoel Romero twice, Israel Adesanya twice, Darren Till, Jared Cannonier, Kelvin Gastelum, Marvin Vittori, Dricus du Plessis, Paulo Costa, Alexkerov. So literally out of those 10 out of those 11 fights, you fought against the man who's either won the middleweight championship or fought for the middleweight championship. So in comparison to Khamzat Chimaev, what would you say is your most difficult fight in the middleweight division so far?
Like right now, it's obviously Chimaev, right?
Mm,
Because like it's unknown. It's territory that it's ground that hasn't been trodden yet. So it's yeah, I like I respect the task at hand, and I'm yeah, I'm just looking forward to it.
And in terms of the middleweight division, there's been a lot of talk about other divisions in the UFC, mostly like the bantamweight or maybe the welterweight. But for my money, the middleweight's the most competitive division at the moment. And you see that in terms of change of hands of the championship. Would you agree that your division is probably the most difficult?
Mate, I think it's a perspective thing, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely the most difficult for me.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you fought the best of the best. And last time out, you were in the Middle East again, beat Alexkerov in Saudi Arabia. In terms of, we talked about it briefly, in terms of the heat and the acclimatization, what is it that is the difference when you come out and you fight in the desert as opposed to fighting elsewhere, whether it's in Vegas or elsewhere in America?
No, honestly, there's not that much difference. Like,
Mm,
I'm sorry if you wanted a different sort of answer, but like, it's all kind of the same. If I'm going to be honest, because like Vegas gets hot too, man.
yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's all kind of the same. The only time that the whole thing was a little different was during COVID because like there was no crowds. It was everything was kind of there was so much protocol and whatnot.
Mm, yeah. And in terms of fighting in front of crowds, I know that Hamzat, this Abu Dhabi is not where he's from, but he's probably going to have the majority of the fans on his side come fight night. Does that kind of thing affect you going into a fight?
Uh, it's different because like yeah, I've never been like outright disliked, right?
You're a likable
But
guy. You're a likable guy, though, mate.
um, but you know what? It didn't affect me too much 3 months
Mm,
ago in Saudi Arabia, and I don't expect it to affect me too much in this one. Like one thing is I've never tried to play to the crowd, and I think that's what they see, right? They see real. I'm in there. to do a job. I'm in there to try and put him away, to bury Chimaev. So I'll work on winning the crowd over after that.
And what did you make of Chimaev's last outing against Kamaru Usman?
I thought it was a good fight. Um, I thought it was good showing. I thought it was good showing. You got to respect how good Usman is. Champion. He's a previous champion. He's champion caliber, champion level, and Chimaev beat him. So yeah, that just goes to show that like his levels and skill sets are to be respected.
You mentioned championship level. You've obviously been at a level for a long, long time now. Is part of the game plan to maybe drag Chimaev into those waters that he doesn't want to be in later on in the fight, where he can really come on strong, especially with your experience?
Man, as soon as he steps inside that octagon with me, he's in deep waters. Like there,
nice.
He's already in the waters that I want him to be in.
Okay. You're not a man to really look past your opponent. But if you do beat Chimaev, obviously you've beaten Paulo Costa recently, Ascalarov as well. If you do beat Khamzat, what's next for you?
I'm going to go home and spend a holiday with my family. Go spend Christmas with them.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I'm planning.
What does a Robert Whittaker Christmas look like?
Hey, food. Lots of food. Like spending time by the pool, water fights, barbecues, the works.
And in terms of people who've worn the middleweight belt recently, so a lot of people who've could fight in the division above, in the light heavyweight division. You look at the size of an Alex Pereira, you look at the size of a Dricus du Plessis, a man you shared the octagon with. You're a man that actually came up to the middleweight division. So in terms of the size of the fighters, have you noticed that that's changed over the last maybe 2 or 3 years in comparison to what it was when you first came into the middleweight division?
Not necessarily. I think it's just particular individuals that highlight that. Like Pereira's a massive dude, and I think but he's also super skilled. So the fact that he's a champion brings a lot of spotlight to that. Dricus, thick guy, big guy, champion now, brings highlight to that. But you can't say that Yoel Romero was undersized, or Jacare Souza, or Tim Kennedy. Like those dudes were massive.
Big guys. You mentioned Dricus. Dana's confirmed that it's Dricus versus Strickland next for the middleweight title. In your opinion, how's that fight go?
Yeah, I think very similar to the first time they crossed paths. Like Strickland will have to do something very different, which I don't know if he can, because that's not how he fights, to beat him.
And in terms of Dricus, obviously he's a man that stirs controversy, and you've shared the cage with him. What is it like getting in there with him? Because people said he's unorthodox. People said that in terms of skill level, he's not up there with previous champions like yourself, Adesanya, Alex Pereira. What is it that makes him so tricky for the top guys in the middleweight division?
No, I don't know. Yeah, but then he's beating them all, right? He beat me. And I thought, like, even when I was in there, I thought he was like cumbersome and slow and awkward. And then he gets his hands on him, mate, and he hits hard. And he whatever he does, maybe that's part of his whole like method to his madness, right? Like whatever it does, it's effective and it works, especially for him. And he's tough as nails. So got to respect his style and address it.
And in terms of styles, one of the most anticipated fights in the UFC for myself anyway is the fight that headlines your card, Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria. Again, skill levels, almost like a clash of the titans. We've never seen Max be knocked out before. We know that Ilia's on a tear in terms of knocking out opponents. How do you think that fight goes next Saturday?
Mate, it's super hard to say, because Max is one of those guys that is very hard. Like on paper, it's very hard to see how he loses. But then you look at the skill set of Topuria, and mate, he would have to be one of the would have to be one of the guys with the highest skill level across the board, I think, in multiple martial arts. So, I'm very curious to see how it goes.
And very complimentary there of Ilia. Would he be number 1 or number 2 in your pound for pound rankings? And if not, who would be?
pound for pound. It's hard to say. Well, my pound for pound is always the same. It's always John Jones.
Oh,
Like
really?
he's always won, mate. Like pound for me is like you put him and anybody else in a room and who leaves, right?
Mm. Yeah. Even at this age, and obviously the looming aspect of maybe fighting Tom Aspinall if John Jones gets through Stipe at the end of the year, you still think that John Jones
Well,
at this age at heavyweight beats Tom Aspinall?
mate, I don't know. That'd be like I
Mm.
want to see that fight so bad, so
Yeah.
bad.
Um, and you're sounding a bit like Dana White when you said that John Jones is the pound for pound number one right now. But I'll make you Dana White right now. If you are the UFC matchmaker and it's a dream fight that you can make, it can be fighters of past or present. What two fighters you would like to see meet in the octagon if you can make that dream fight?
Mate, I would love to see Aspinall and Jones. I don't think we'll see it, but honestly,
Yeah,
I think Jones fights Stipe and then kind of hangs up.
yeah, I agree. And finally, circling back to your fight against Khamzat Chimaev, you said that it's going to be deep waters from the moment that he steps into the cage with you. How do you get the job done next Saturday?
Mate, I'm like any way possible. I've left no stone unturned, and I've trained my heart out for this. I'm going to get in there. I've got 25 minutes with him. I'm looking to try and take his head off the entire 25 minutes, but I've addressed every skill set for this fight.
You don't want to look too far ahead. You take on the opponent that's in front of you right now. After this fight, it's going to be Christmas dinner for Robert Whittaker. But do you think you're deserving of the title shot and facing the winner of Dricus versus Sean Strickland if you beat Khamzat Chimaev next Saturday?
Certainly, definitely, without a doubt.